Did you know your belly fat can actually reveal far more about your internal health than your weight on a scale, or even the results of a standard blood test? People often assume belly fat is only a cosmetic problem, something that changes how clothes fit or how confident someone feels in a mirror, but the truth is far deeper and more important. What looks like a simple layer of fat can, in reality, be a silent indicator of hormonal balance, metabolic stability, inflammation levels, and even long-term disease risk. Most people do not realize that there are 5 different levels of belly fat, each with its own biological behavior, impact on the body, and danger level. Only one of these levels is considered safe and protective, while the others gradually move toward metabolic disruption, insulin resistance, inflammation, and eventually critical health risks like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver, and even certain cancers. Some types of belly fat are harmless and actually beneficial, providing warmth, energy storage, and hormonal support, but others sit deep inside the abdomen and press against vital organs such as the liver, pancreas, and intestines, releasing chemicals that trigger inflammation and silently deteriorate health over time. This is why understanding what kind of belly fat you carry is more important than simply trying to lose weight quickly. If we ignore it, if we continue to eat unconsciously, live sedentary lives, or let stress control our routines, the fat that once served as a natural survival system can gradually become a biological hazard. It doesn't just change how your body looks from the outside, it changes how your body functions from the inside. Fat becomes more than storage. It becomes active, hormonal, inflammatory, and dangerous. When this happens, energy levels drop, cravings increase, sleep becomes shallow, blood sugar rises after meals, and the body begins to feel heavier than it used to. But when we understand belly fat clearly, when we learn what level we fall into and why, we gain the power to reverse it naturally and gradually move back toward balance, health, longevity, and better energy. In this lesson, we will explore belly fat not as a surface problem, but as a metabolic story taking place inside the body. We'll draw on research from modern metabolic science, clinical observations, and long-term studies on fat distribution, inflammation, insulin resistance, and aging. Instead of viewing belly fat as a single concept, we will break it down into 5 understandable levels, from the harmless and healthy category to the most dangerous form that requires urgent lifestyle attention. By the end, you will understand not only what belly fat really is, but how it forms, how it changes over time, how it behaves differently depending on where it sits, and why some fat is a natural protector while other fat becomes a long-term threat. You will see where you currently stand in these 5 levels, because self-awareness is the first step before change. You will also learn foundational habits that support fat regulation, reduce inflammation, and improve metabolism long before we move into advanced methods. The goal is not to chase a smaller waist purely for appearance, but to support the body internally so that weight loss becomes a natural side effect of improved metabolic function. Once we understand how belly fat works, changes happen more smoothly, more sustainably, and without extreme dieting or exhausting routines. So what exactly is belly fat? At first glance, it might seem like a simple cushion of stored calories, maybe the result of overeating or lack of exercise, but biologically, it is much more complex. Imagine your belly as a storage system, like a biological bank account. When food intake is balanced with activity, the storage is moderate, organized, and helpful. When the intake consistently exceeds what we burn, the storage overflows, spills into deeper layers, and becomes disorganized and harmful. There are 2 primary types of belly fat, each functioning very differently inside the body. The first is subcutaneous fat. This is the soft, pinchable fat that sits just under the skin. It is visible and the type most people think of when they squeeze their belly between their fingers. Subcutaneous fat is generally harmless, and in moderate amounts, it protects the body like padding. It cushions organs, stores energy, and helps regulate temperature and hormones. In fact, having zero belly fat would be dangerous because the body needs some stored energy for survival. The second type is visceral fat, and this is the important one. Visceral fat sits deep around the organs where you cannot pinch it from the outside. Someone can appear slim from the outside and still carry a dangerous amount of visceral fat internally. This type of fat behaves like an active chemical factory, constantly releasing inflammatory compounds called cytokines that trigger internal stress, damage blood vessels, increase insulin resistance, and pressure organs until they struggle to function efficiently. Research now shows that visceral fat is strongly linked not only to obesity, but to diabetes, fatty liver, hormonal imbalance, and cardiovascular disease. It ages the body faster, disrupts sleep, increases cortisol levels, and even affects how the brain handles hunger and cravings. This is why someone with visceral fat often feels hungry even after eating, tired even after sleeping, and stressed even on normal days. The fat itself is influencing hormones behind the scenes. The key is awareness. Most people cannot visually distinguish which type of fat they hold, so instead of guessing, we break it down into 5 levels. Think of these levels as markers, a scale from balanced to dangerous, helping you understand where you stand today and how far or how close you are to the healthiest zone. Level 1 is the healthy essential fat zone. People here have a flat or naturally contoured stomach with visible waist definition. The fat is mostly subcutaneous, soft, minimal, and not pressing into internal organs. It supports hormonal balance, acts as fuel storage, and keeps the body warm and nourished without causing metabolic issues. These individuals usually experience stable energy, balanced appetite, healthy digestion, and controlled blood sugar. Level 1 is not about achieving a shredded six-pack. It is simply a state where the body operates efficiently. People here typically maintain activity, eat whole foods more often than processed foods, and rarely binge eat late at night. Their metabolism burns energy smoothly, insulin responds well to meals, and inflammation is low. Level 1 is the ideal but not unrealistic. It does not require extreme dieting, only balance. Level 2 is slightly different. Here, the belly begins to show a soft curve. The stomach may appear flat in the morning but rounder after meals or when sitting. This is still mostly subcutaneous fat, not yet dangerous, but it indicates that intake is slightly exceeding output. People in this stage might have sedentary routines, frequent snacking habits, late dinners, or mild calorie surpluses without realizing it. Energy remains decent, but metabolism may slow slightly, cravings may increase occasionally, and bloating may appear after heavy meals. This stage is reversible, with simple changes like reducing sugar, increasing daily steps, and avoiding late-night food. Level 2 is a crossroads. With awareness and minor adjustments, the body can move back to Level 1. Without attention, it may gradually progress to Level 3, where fat becomes persistent and begins to move deeper. When belly fat reaches Level 3, the body begins to show noticeable internal changes that aren't always visible from the outside. This is where stubborn fat forms, the kind that no longer responds quickly to quick fixes or short-term dieting. A person might try cutting sugar for a few days or exercising for a week and see little to no change, which often leads to frustration and confusion. The belly may appear rounder or lower in the abdominal area. It still feels soft near the surface, which means subcutaneous fat still exists, but underneath that softness, there may be a firmer layer, a subtle indication that visceral fat is beginning to develop internal territory. This is the early warning stage. It signals that energy intake is consistently greater than energy usage, or that stress, sleep, and hormonal shifts have disrupted metabolism enough to encourage fat storage. People at this stage often experience midday energy crashes, cravings for sweets or carbohydrate-heavy foods, difficulty controlling appetite, irritability when hungry, or feeling tired despite eating. The body may also hold water more easily, digestion may slow, and fat may accumulate faster than it used to. Hormones such as insulin and cortisol start playing a larger role here. Insulin, responsible for moving sugar into cells, begins to weaken in efficiency. The body produces more of it to handle the same amount of food. This gradual inefficiency, known as insulin resistance, makes fat loss harder because more excess glucose is converted into fat instead of being burned for energy. Cortisol, the stress hormone, encourages fat to accumulate in the abdominal area when elevated over long periods. Modern life, with late nights, screens, processed foods, desk jobs, emotional stress, and irregular eating, creates the perfect environment for level 3 development without us noticing. And yet, this level is reversible. Intermittent fasting, mindful eating, reduced sugar intake, and choosing whole, nutrient-dense foods create metabolic changes that help the body release stored fat. The moment insulin sensitivity improves and inflammation lowers, the body starts burning energy more efficiently, and belly fat begins to shrink again. Level 3 is a wake-up stage, not a point of defeat. It is a sign that change must become intentional instead of passive. If level 3 is ignored, progression moves into level 4, where belly fat transitions from surface-level storage into a deeper, more dangerous form. Here, fat surrounds vital organs. A person may not be significantly overweight overall, but their belly protrudes firmly, sometimes appearing tight or rounded even when other parts of the body look normal. This is the point where visceral fat becomes active. Instead of sitting quietly in storage, it behaves like an organ itself, releasing inflammatory chemicals into the bloodstream. These chemicals create internal stress, interfere with hormonal communication, and damage cells over time. They make the liver work harder, strain the pancreas, interfere with blood sugar management, and disrupt hunger and fullness signals in the brain. People in this stage may notice increased fatigue, elevated fasting glucose, high triglycerides, or rising cholesterol. They may develop fatty liver markers, insulin resistance, digestive issues, acid reflux, or experience constant hunger despite eating enough. Sleep can become shallow, and stress tolerance weakens. Many may not realize the underlying cause and assume they are just aging or slowing down. But belly fat here is not passive. It is metabolically loud. It demands energy, releases inflammatory molecules, increases oxidative stress, and silently pushes the body toward chronic illness if left untreated. However, the body is highly capable of recovery when guided correctly. Level 4 fat responds powerfully to lifestyle changes such as extended fasting windows, removal of processed foods, higher intake of vegetables, fiber, omega-rich foods, and consistent movement such as walking, strength training, and improving sleep quality. Belly fat burns during low insulin states, which means long periods without snacking. Late-night eating, sugary drinks, and processed carbs become critical. When the body shifts from constantly digesting to actually repairing and burning fat stores, visceral fat slowly melts. Level 4 is serious, but not irreversible. It is a turning point, a moment where knowledge can empower action. But if this stage continues without intervention, belly fat reaches level 5, a critical dangerous zone where long-term metabolic damage is no longer a risk, but a present reality. In level 5, the belly is large, round, tight, and forward projecting. Waist measurements increase even if weight on scales fluctuates. The core becomes heavy and movement may feel more exhausting. People here often face persistent high blood glucose, significant insulin resistance, fatty liver disease, high blood pressure, inflammation, and chronic low energy. Breathlessness may appear even during mild exertion like climbing stairs or walking quickly. Hunger may feel uncontrollable or unpredictable, and cravings for sugar, fast food, or constant snacking become stronger. Mental clarity may drop, memory may feel foggy, and sleep may alternate between restless and overly heavy. Hormones become imbalanced. Cortisol remains high, insulin remains elevated, leptin, the fullness hormone, is ignored, and ghrelin, the hunger hormone, may stay active longer. This creates a cycle of eating more, storing more, and burning less. Each meal adds to storage instead of energy. The liver begins to store excess fat, the heart works harder, and the risk of heart attack or stroke increases significantly. This level requires urgent attention not through extreme dieting or punishment, but through guided lifestyle change. The beautiful truth, often forgotten in fear, is that even level 5 fat can be reversed. The body always tries to heal. When we reduce sugar and refined carbs, increase whole food intake, practice fasting windows, hydrate properly, move regularly, and sleep deeper, the body slowly begins to use fat stores as fuel again. The liver repairs, inflammation decreases, insulin sensitivity improves, and energy returns. It may not happen overnight, but it happens layer by layer. Fat leaves the organs first, then the inner belly, then the outer belly. The path back to level 1 is not a straight line of perfection, but a consistent practice of better habits. So as you reflect on these 5 levels, it becomes clear that belly fat isn't simply a matter of appearance or weight. It's a message. Level 1 signals harmony. Level 2 whispers caution. Level 3 raises a flag. Level 4 calls for intervention. Level 5 demands transformation. Every body holds fat differently, influenced by genetics, hormones, lifestyle, sleep, food choices, emotional stress, and activity levels. But unlike static traits, belly fat is dynamic. It changes when you change your input. When you align your habits with your body's needs, fat storage slows and fat release begins. When you prioritize nutrient-dense foods, fiber, hydration, and mindful portions, digestion improves, hunger stabilizes, and energy becomes cleaner. When you stop eating late, reduce snacking, and allow fasting periods, insulin lowers, and the body begins using fat for fuel. When you move your body daily, walking, stretching, lifting, breathing, circulation improves and fat oxidation increases. Belly fat, even deep visceral fat, responds powerfully to consistent small lifestyle shifts. You don't need extreme routines or starvation diets. You need rhythm, patience, and nourishment instead of punishment. Healing comes from supporting the body, not fighting it. This journey is not only physical, it's emotional and mental. The moment you stop seeing belly fat as failure and start seeing it as communication, everything changes. Instead of shame, there is understanding. Instead of frustration, there is awareness. Instead of rushing, there is patient transformation. And slowly, the body reflects these changes. Your belly becomes softer, lighter, calmer chemically. Organs breathe easier. Blood flows smoother. Hormones realign. Energy rises. Confidence returns not because you look different, but because you feel different. Because you feel in control again. Because your body responds, because your body is listening. So as you move forward, remember that change is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about metabolic peace. It's about living in a body that supports you, sustains you, and carries you with strength. Your belly fat is not the enemy. It is a signal. And now you speak its language.